Delegates, would you please welcome to the stand the President of the CPSU, Joan Byrne.
Vanity doesn't wear out, age does, you wear the glasses. Good morning, delegates. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all here this morning to Galway, to the 92nd Annual Delegate Conference of the CPSU. I hope you all have an enjoyable conference. I encourage you to take the opportunity to have your say on the ongoing issues that are relevant to this union. With 103 motions on the agenda, I look forward to many lively debates over the next coming days. At the outset, I want to thank all the head office staff, ably led by our own Anne Murphy, for all their help in organising conference. Only those who work in the background know the amount of time and effort it takes to organise such an event. So on your behalf, I say thanks to all involved in organising our conference this year. I also want to include in this thanks the Standing Orders Committee for their hard work and diligence in the preparations for conference. So thank you, Standing Orders. I now wish to turn to an issue that is central to the concerns of all delegates here this morning, namely the Haddington Road Agreement, or should that be the Haddington hijack? It has had such a devastating impact on the terms and conditions of our members. Having endured the severe and unfair pay cuts in the run-up to Croke Park Agreement, we made it clear that our members had nothing more to give. You remember the campaign? Yes, further pay cuts were on the table, supposedly for those on 65k, but our members were asked to take an equivalent cut through increased working hours and a range of severe changes to their terms and conditions. This was grossly unfair. During the boom years, the higher paid did very well because of the percentage-based pay increases, while the lower paid were left lagging behind. The cuts under Croke Park 1 were severe on the low paid, didn't reflect the way in which the higher paid did so much better during the boom. And then the promise to restore pay to those on 35k and below was reneged on. Shame on you, Minister, picking on those who can least afford it. We fought a brave and determined fight as we managed to set out at this conference last year to build alliances with other unions to get Croke Park 2 rejected. Regrettably, that alliance fractured even before we were forced under the threat of legislation to return to the negotiating table. The Executive Committee recommended that members should reject the revised terms on offer because they didn't change the core issues in Croke Park 2 that we objected to. The reality, members looked at the draconian FEMPI legislation and decided rejection could bring even more pain. We will discuss at conference over the next 2 days how best we can fight to restore the many terms and conditions that have been decimated over the last 5 years. However, I believe it's urgent that we set our demands in relation to the restoration of pay and the resumption again of normal pay bargaining. I feel very strongly that this government has let down the lower paid workers so badly by reneging on the 35k restoration that they committed to in Croke Park 1. We now see our economy recovering, despite the efforts of the Troika to kill it through austerity. It can be seen in the rebound in jobs and the increase in confidence slowly taking hold in parts of the economy. Some in government are even talking of tax cuts for next year. Can you believe it? So I want to send a loud, clear message this morning to this government. You have an obligation to your low-paid employees to deliver on the commitments already made. We're entitled to our money back on the 35k commitment, and we want it now. Last year, there were pay increases in 9 of the 13 sectors of the economy. Inflation, while low, had nonetheless eroded living standards in tandem with pay cuts in the last 3 years. Recent surveys have identified private sector pay increased over 2% this year. Well, public servants can't be left behind. We know there are budgetary constraints, but it's clear the economy is now on the rebound, and increases to the lower paid will only further stimulate that recovery. We don't want to return to the so-called social partnership arrangements. That just suited the higher paid and the better off during the boom. What we do want is this government to value, respect the contribution of its public servants. As we look to the historic centenary of 1916, we're reminded of the resolve in the proclamation, and I quote, "to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and all its parts, not just one or two." I say to Minister Howland and Noonan this morning, it's time to confine the draconian FEMPI legislation to the dustbins of history, to prepare to return to normal pay bargaining for the public sector. Equity and fairness demands no less ministers. Even if we succeed in getting our restoration of pay, our members still have taken more than their fair share of hardship under Haddington Road. This agreement has eroded many of the family-friendly policies we as a union fought for over the last decade. Showing my age, I was around when we set out the aims for better family-friendly conditions for our members. 1, flexi time. It just didn't happen, folks. Just like all the other family-friendly policies, it had to be fought for by this union. It took a long time before agreement was reached and our members got the opportunity of some varying in their hours to suit their work life and their family life. If you have caring commitments for a young family, an elderly family member, or indeed for anybody or any family member, it's difficult enough to try and work up a flexi day. But now we have to work an extra 2.15 hours a week. It makes it impossible for those members to work any kind of flexible hours so that they can honour the family commitments they've made. Having to endure these extra hours without pay only lends, in my view, that this government has no respect for the decent, low-paid workers in the public service of this country. Shame on you, Enda, and all your colleagues. And hopefully, our members will show you the same contempt at the next elections. If I'm to look at the future of our members, I would say one of my greatest concerns is outsourcing. We had a long discussion at the executive on it yesterday. The many pay agreements we have had over the last decade have all alluded to the outsourcing in some shape or form. The Haddington Road Agreement, or hijack as I call it, has emphasised this issue. And we're now at a stage where we have to become more vigilant in our efforts to identify where jobs in the civil service are being outsourced. But while we can identify where the plans to outsource are, I believe this union and its sister unions need to formulate a joint agreed plan to tackle the problem. We know, as loyal civil servants of this country, that we can provide the services needed with dedication and commitment because we've been doing it for years. The need to outsource to private companies is only in the eyes of management. If the service is capable of being delivered and provided by civil servants, then why are management seeking to line the pockets of private companies instead of providing jobs and job security for our civil servants? I say to you delegates here today, be vigilant. Let your reps know if you think there are any indications that work in your area is being targeted for outsourcing. We can't afford to allow our work, no matter what that work is, to be outsourced. If we want to see our civil service grow and we want to see further employment and have the embargo on recruitment lifted, then we have to show that we are the best place to do the job. We're the most efficient to do the job. Can we do the job? Yes, we can. I suppose at a time when many of our members in the Department of Agriculture have been shunted out of their offices, been redeployed at short notice, much further afield without proper consultation, it's appropriate to call better times when the commitment, the dedication and the firm resolve of over 260 CPSU members in that department took on the government in a 13-week strike that ended in victory. Surprise, surprise. The government had reneged on a commitment to promotions, and when members took very limited industrial action in response, they were promptly removed from the payroll in an action that both the High Court and the Supreme Court found to be illegal. The sheer determination of the 260 of our members not to submit to such tactics by management saw them man the picket lines for 13 lonely weeks until the promotion package, twice what would have been accepted before the dispute started, was agreed. But delegates, The icing on the cake was the recent Supreme Court decision to decide in the union's favour that civil servants illegally removed from the payroll were entitled to their money back and to have their pension and service rights restored. A fantastic victory all round, and our agriculture members deserve great credit for the way they fought and won the dispute. The union too will recover the considerable legal costs it committed to fighting the issue, all the way to the Supreme Court. And I know that the General Secretary, Owen, will address the issue of the Solidarity Fund with the new incoming executive, as soon as all the legal issues surrounding the victory are resolved. And of course, that's not the only legal battle that the union has taken on in recent years. The long-running Garda Equal Pay case was won before the Equality Tribunal in 2005, but overturned by the Labour Court 2 years later. The Executive Committee, on the advice from officials, immediately decided to challenge the Labour Court decision through the High Court, seeking a reference to the Court of Justice of the European Union. This decision was taken because we believed that the two grounds on which the Labour Court rejected the discrimination claim would not stand up before the Court of Justice. At the time, we were strongly supported by both the European Commission and Spain. And then the European Court set out new and clear parameters for the Labour Court to follow in reconsidering the case. This effectively rejected the basis on which the original Labour Court decision was made. Yet again, this union has been vindicated in its policy of being prepared to challenge the decisions we consider wrong through the long and costly legal process. Since the beginning, many new members have joined the claim, and while the final outcome can never be certain, there's no doubt that so far this union has been on the correct course. So far, this union has recovered 2/3 of its legal costs on this case, including those in the European Court, an outcome we were very pleased with. With over 16 government departments and associated offices, 80 CPSU branches throughout the country, the issues for the CPSU are many and varied. And you'll be happy to hear I don't propose to go into them individually today. Suffice to say, I've attended both meetings and AGMs throughout the country. Not as many as I would have liked to get to, but as many as I could possibly. I have heard loud and clear the concerns of our membership throughout the country. While we have been successful in tackling a huge number of local issues, there still remains a large amount of work to be done. I want to commend local reps and branch committees for their loyal work and commitment to the union and its membership. In consultation with the General Secretary, we will be setting up a subcommittee of the new executive to examine our branch structures and to improve the service for our smaller branches and departments, and indeed for all the membership. And as I mentioned branches, I'd like at this stage to pay tribute to our many members in EirCom who have decided to wind down their national committee structure due to the exit of so many members under the recent voluntary retirement package. Over the years, our members in EirCom have made a lively and committed contribution to the union affairs, particularly at ADC. We still have a few left, and I wish them well here at conference. Haven't seen you lads, but good luck to you. But I would like in particular to pay tribute to the former Vice President Jim O'Shea and Trustee Padraig McCormack from EirCom, who retired in the past year, both having given sterling service to this union. We wish you both a long and happy and healthy retirement, lads. In conclusion, delegates, I want to urge you all, be vigilant about your work, be strong in your convictions, be active in your union, because at the end of the day, it's the only way we will overcome our adversities. I want to say that as president of this great union, it was a privilege to serve you. I thank you for the opportunity to do so. I look forward to working both with you and on your behalf again, in whatever capacity you decide. Gormagwith.